Hello, my name is Dr. Carl Candlepun, and this is the 12th official episode of my Lost podcast. As such, it features spoilers for up to and including Season 1, Episode 12, whatever the case may be. It features no spoilers beyond this point in the show. However, if you have not seen at least to this point in the series, I highly encourage you to do so first before proceeding with this podcast. But without further ado, let's begin. Hello and welcome to Dr. Candlepun's Lost podcast. My name is Christopher Huth, otherwise known as Dr. Candlepun.
And I am Michael Huth, also known as First Responder Certified Flickerson.
And today we are here to talk about the first ever Lost episode that I ever saw, whatever the case may be. What was your opinion of the episode? Like it, dislike it? Let's start there and then we get into why.
I liked it. And again, I know I sound like a broken record, but although I've seen the episode before 20 years ago, it surprised me in a lot of ways. There were times that I was like, I kind of think I know how this happens, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I did like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? And I know you just watched it, so maybe you haven't like put the thought into it yet. But like, what did you? Okay, compared to some of the episodes that you haven't been as big of a fan of, specifically the Saeed one, I think that was the only one that you've said that you didn't care for.
Yeah.
What do you think about this one
compared to that?
Yeah, if you
can.
articulate.
Well, I would. It's funny you say that because I mean it does have that almost like filler episode feel to it. Like there's not a bunch of reveals. Like we already knew the mystery that was Kate. There's just another little sliver of that pie. If there's actually some crumbs left in the pan, and they want to see if it still tastes good. So, yeah.
Well, because we've talked before about how Kate was like the first person who we had a full flashback episode on, and we talked about how we didn't really learn anything about like demons that she had and things that she felt she needed to overcome, whereas from that point forward a lot of the episodes kind of became that way. And I feel like watching this one, it's unique for me because it was the first episode I ever saw, so it was my introduction to it. I didn't know anything about Kate's past when I first saw it, except for what you would tell me in the commercial break, which I think was just that, oh yes,
sure, I nailed it.
But yeah, imagining watching it in chronological order the first time through, and then like you start this flashback, you start the first flashback, and you're like, okay, it's Kate's episode. I feel like you'd be thinking like, oh, we're gonna learn what she did. Yeah. And then this bank robbery starts happening. It's like, okay, did she kill a bank robber or something? Yeah. Like, did something weird go down with this? And it's like, oh no, she's in on it. Okay, like maybe that's what she did. She's a bank robber. And then by the end of it, you're like, oh, like this is when she was already on the run, presumably.
Yeah.
And then at the end, she says what she says to Jack about what's in there, and it belonged to the man I loved. It belonged to the man I killed. It's like, okay, so it sounds like she killed somebody that she loved, and we don't know why that happened or what the details of that are.
Yeah.
All that to say, like the flashbacks themselves don't seem to reveal a lot about Kate. I mean, it does kind of contextualize what the marshal said to Jack all the way back at the beginning, if you remember. Like he said, oh, she got to you too. Yeah. And he talked about how you got the vibe that like there was some kind of romantic thing there. Well, so now you're seeing like the effect she had on the bank manager. First of all, like he was very smitten with her to begin with, and I would argue that I don't think she necessarily expected that would be the case. I don't think she was necessarily trying to seduce him,
right,
or anything. But she certainly exploits him caring about what happens to her, like her and the main bank robber Jason. They rough her up and bring her out, and he threatens to kill her specifically to get him to do what he wants. But then also Jason, she does seduce him into doing this, and she kind of cons and uses him for her own purpose. Basically, tying that back into the on-island thing, like I think that's what Jack is feeling like she's doing with him.
Yeah.
and why he's like, no, tell me the truth. Like, tell me what this means.
Yeah.
Like, give me this one time.
Just one time. Tell me the truth.
Yeah.
Welcome to love, Jack.
So all of that's a really long-winded way of me trying to say that the one thing that we kind of learn about Kate, which we maybe already kind of suspected, is that she might use people a bit, and specifically men, and like she doesn't want to let anybody in. Like she can't let Sawyer know. Like when Sawyer's asking, like, hey, I don't care what it is. I just want to know why it means so much to you. She can't let him in.
Yeah.
Now, granted, with Sawyer, there's an additional element of like to reveal certain things would be to reveal that she's a fugitive, and you probably don't want to trust Sawyer with that information.
Right.
But with Jack, who you would think that she would have, a lot more trust with, like she's still not comfortable revealing that part of herself or sharing that part of herself.
Yeah. I get the vibe from that, by the way, is because she's a master manipulator. That's clear. She's a bit of a Black Widow, seemingly. I get the vibe. What's different with Jack, or at least what the picture that I believe is being painted for me, is Jack is different. She doesn't want to let anybody in, but she doesn't want to let Jack in because she knows she'll manipulate him, and she actually cares about him and doesn't want to do that to him. Is the vibe that I get. I think that's what separates her. Because the other thing about the episode is like it's just like more perv on perv scene from Sawyer. Like every time that dude's around her, like he just wants to pin her down, like show he's controlling her, make some pseudo-sexual, if not, overtly sexual comment, he's just trying to turn into something else. Like, bro, we get it. You're desperate. And so it's just, I think that whole interaction with him, it's like, that keeps him being the sleazeball that he is. And then now Jack's this jaded, lover, even though technically, they're not in this relationship. But yeah, he's definitely more than aware of Kate's kind of MO, if you will.
Yeah. It's funny hearing you, talk about the Sawyer Kate thing as disparagingly as you are, because last night we did the screening for All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues, the last one we did. Yep. And there's one guy in particular. There's a couple people that don't love Jack. There was one person, Will, who was talking about he's talking about how he doesn't like Jack, and then like some of the time it was kind of like aggressive, like oh, he really doesn't like him. And then when we started talking about the Kate thing, he's like, I actually wanted to end up with Sawyer. And he starts going into he's like a very harsh take on why Kate shouldn't be with Jack. And so it's funny hearing that last night and then talking to you today and hearing that. And personally, specifically at this point in the series, I would be more for Jack and Kate than I would be for Kate and Sawyer. But I don't feel like I felt as offended by some of Sawyer's behavior in this episode. That said, I feel like the opening scene where they're in the lagoon, it didn't like creep me out because she seems into it for whatever reason, but it does go on for a while. The playfulness, and it's just like, is this?
It's dirty. I paused and took a shower. I mean, like,
he's like tickling her.
Yeah, it is what it is. But I mean, like, I didn't like the whole thing. It's like I clearly he wants to disrobe and get in water, and they come up on this bit of this oasis here out in the woods, and the first thing Sawyer's thinking about is getting skinny dipping or whatever, getting wet, and then I there's a little bit of me that's like, come on, Kate, like why would you even why would you even engage in that? If they didn't do that, they wouldn't have found the case, and we wouldn't be here in this duly named episode.
But to defend her decision to engage in that, I don't think it was. See, keep in mind, like at the end of Sawyer's episode, she understands him on another level when she finds out about the letter, and then she starts to feel sorry for him. He pushes her away in that moment, but then going into the next episode, she kind of encourages him to make more of an effort, and then he does.
Yes.
And then it's been a few episodes since he's done anything particularly. I mean, not since she found out about the letter has he done anything overtly antagonistic to anybody. The closest thing was when she doesn't know about that. I was going to say when he comes and confronts Saeed, but then he doesn't even do anything, and he's like, "Yep, kept your signal fire burning," which pretty. I don't know if noble's the right word, but for Sawyer to have that beef with Saeed after what Saeed did to him, and to just like leave him alone, and not only that, but be like, yeah, I kept your secret. Yeah. Anyways, bit of a sidetrack. My point is, I do think that Kate, and after that kiss too, that kind of became the moment where she can no longer deny that she does have some kind of attraction to him. So you take that moment, followed immediately by the letter, and kind of like starting to feel sorry for him, and then him not doing anything douchey for a little bit. I think it makes sense to me that she would engage in that. But anyway, going back to earlier when I was talking about what we learned about Kate, her flashbacks do kind of make her seem like at first like, oh, like she might actually be a really bad person. You know, we spent the past several episodes on an island with her thinking like oh yeah, she's a fugitive, but she seems like a good person. The bank robbery thing like kind of makes you second guess that, but then at the end, when he's about to kill the manager, she like neutralizes the other bank robbers, but by shooting them. But it goes out of the show goes out of its way to show you that each of them are only wounded and not actually killed. So the show's still like making it clear that like, yeah, like look, she saved the one-armed man that tried to turn her in.
Yeah.
In her first flashback episode, and now in this one, like, yeah, she used these guys, but they weren't good people. All I'm trying to say, I guess, is that like we still didn't get a lot of like exposition on who Kate is and why she is the way that she is.
Yeah.
And considering it's her second flashback episode, yeah. But this is also the point in the series where they realized this is going to go on for a while. So this is the part of the show where I think you can kind of feel them start to drag their feet a little bit on some of the character reveals and things. All of these are reasons that I feel like a lot of people might not like the episode. I think it's between this and like one other episode for my least favorite of season 1. That said, that there are things I still like about it. I do really like the Jack and Kate scene at the end where she opens the case and he makes her tell it. I think that's really well acted on both of their parts. And yeah, but yeah, it's funny because it was the first episode I ever saw, and like this was you're telling me like, oh, son speaks English, like that guy was in a wheelchair. Kate was a fugitive. And when they mentioned the pregnant girl, I remember he was like, oh yeah, that's pregnant. Like there was another person that was on the island. He wasn't on the plane, and like they kidnapped him. It was basically all the stuff you were saying in the commercial breaks that had me and my brother Brandon. It had us like, what? So what really got us hooked, I think, was the things you were telling us that we hadn't seen. But for the age that I was, like the action-y flashbacks too, like it's still like above other shows that I would have been watching at that time. So yeah, it was enough. It was enough to get me interested in the show for sure. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot. The interesting thing about this one is like there's a lot of subplots in this episode, like a lot of little things. So I don't know. I guess the first one I'll bring up is Shannon, because I feel like this is the first time that Shannon gets some character development.
Yeah. Although slight, but yes.
I mean, it's been 11 episodes of her essentially just being the same thing. You have one episode where she has the asthma situation, and so they're trying to save her, but that doesn't really give her any agency,
right?
Or add anything to her arc. Yeah, this one, like, she's kind of confronted again with feeling useless and her insecurity over that, and
very subtly.
Yeah.
I think it is like things like that though. Again, well played for the script, because I mean I don't have any sympathy for her. Like she's literally useless in that situation. Has been useless. Like she's literally sun tanning, all this other stuff, and at the same time, her brother saying that to her. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh man, that stinks. It doesn't matter how real it is, right? It doesn't matter how accurate that he is. It's just like, okay, you didn't have to say that. It's like she feels that every day when she wakes up and she's still alive. You didn't have to remind her of it. And at the same time, it's like that seems to be maybe putting her on the path that when Saeed comes to her and asks for help, she's like, okay, feeling down, feeling what her brother said to her. It's like, all right, I'll help type thing.
Well, she kind
she's
of
still reluctant, but
yeah, she's reluctant. It's really, I think, Saeed's kind of the one that pushes her to get past what Boone said. Of course, then Saeed himself kind of gets frustrated with her. And then at the end, she herself, like, despite Saeed kind of being a jerk to her by the end of that, and her telling him off, she's the one that approaches him and says, "Actually, I think I figured out what it was." Like, he didn't have to come apologize to her or encourage her again in order to get her to do that.
Certainly wasn't into a long explanation, because he did kind of get a little lippy with her there when she started. Why are you telling me this? Calm down, Saeed. Just about to sing in French. So it worked out really good.
I feel like that's another thing that could be, like, I've never felt frustrated about it. I'm literally just not thinking of it, but, like, Saeed finally is getting into, like, some of the information he got from the French woman. He's trying to get this translated, and they spend the episode doing that, and then by the end, it was just song lyrics. I feel like that's something that some viewers might be frustrated by. But did you like the little moment that her and Saeed had at the end where she's singing to him?
Yeah, I did. I liked it. And also liked, oddly enough, number one, sounded beautiful. The actual fact of the singing sounded beautiful. But then I also liked the way that music, it got softer, but it was played almost like it was echoing across the island as the camera's panning and we're seeing Jack come and, second take Kate, and she's still crying about the guy she killed and stole his toy plane. So it was kind of a nice, like, cinematic kind of the sound and everything. It just it took a crap situation they're in, and with that beautiful sound and the fire on the beach and everything else, even though some people are broken up a little bit, it still seemed kind of almost idyllic and peaceful. Tranquil. Tranquil's a good word.
But then you have it followed up by Boone creepily watching.
Yeah. Nobody comes on to my sister except for me. Calm down, Boone. Okay. Yeah, that was really weird. That was weird. That's kind of like he'd been to, like, Sawyer's dating classes or something. That kind of threw me off. I forgot about that matter. I think I locked that out for traumatic reasons. But.
Do you remember anything about, like, if that goes in any kind of direction, like, if it's kind of explained why he's looking that way?
I believe he's in love with Saeed. I think we find out a couple episodes down. I think we find. No, I have no idea. I have no idea. I just like. I still. I mean, nothing against Boone. That dude. He's so forgettable to me. Like, if somebody, he's just so desperate to be seen that I'm like, at some point you got to know what you bring to the table and not be scared to eat alone, as they say. But yeah, like if I got amnesia and Boone wasn't in another episode, it would. I don't think it'd affect me. Well, unless I'm forgetting about something in the future that Boone does that's super crazy. But.
Well, I mean, so we didn't get a lot of development of it in this episode, but I mean, most recently, him and Locke found that metal thing, and in this one, like, he's being secretive about what they're out there doing.
I forgot about that. The 4 days in a row they've been out till late or dark or whatever.
Yeah, he's been leaving early, coming back late, and he tells Shannon that they're looking for Claire, which we know is not true.
Yes.
So this episode kind of reveals, as far as, like, the last episode ended with them discovering something.
Yeah.
This episode, the only progression that plot has is, like, they're not telling people.
Yes. They're on a little side mission by themselves.
Yeah. Boone goes and fetches the axe and brings it back to Locke, but then we don't really get to see what they've been doing.
Yeah.
These past 4 days, or why they need the axe necessarily. Well, yeah. So I just bring that up, and like it seems like maybe Boone's story could get interesting, given that him and Locke are doing this secretive thing. Well, so another subplot of sorts is Charlie and Rose. What do you think of that?
First off, I love the interaction. At first, when she is essentially scolding him for, like, hey, everybody's sad, like, but you don't get to be mean. You talk to people when they talk to you and say, like, that is so, like, the way I grew up type of thing. Like if Rose was your friend's mom or whatever, like, that's exactly the kind of thing you'd expect to hear, and you just accept it because they were an adult type thing. And so I don't know. I love that. I love that interaction. Frankly, if I'm going to get all old on you, I would say if people actually still spoke to people that way, and then people, were raised in a way that they would respond the way that he did, like this world would still be a lot better off. I love that. It's very nostalgic for me. So I'm sorry if nobody else got that out of it, but I love that. And then, how arguably one of the people going through the worst on this island right now, and she has, the most faith, in God, clearly the most faith that, she's not lost anything. She's just separated right now. That's her take on her husband being missing, and then kind of sharing that thought process with Charlie. And then, of course, in the end, he opens up a little bit and then just breaks down like a cheap shotgun. And then she prays with him. And I just think that was a cool interaction. So I don't think her husband's coming back. And if I remember correctly, I think her and Charlie end up being together. That's not true either. That's not true. I like that interaction, though.
Yeah. Did you?
Oh, I missed something, didn't I, Chris?
No. Well, I mean, I'm gonna ask if you did.
Yeah.
Did you catch and if you did you appreciate the when him and her on the beach during the daytime, near the middle of the episode, she says, "I think you need to ask for help," and he says, "Who's gonna help me?" And then it cut to the cross, the grave marker. Did you?
I didn't even. Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't even catch that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Which, I mean, because we know that Charlie used to be Catholic, like he used to be a practicing Catholic, and then he kind of lost touch with that because of what happened with the band. I think Rose kind of getting him reconnected with that part of that spiritual side of himself. I think it's meaningful. It is funny though, because like and maybe this is my lack of maturity growing up, and then I've just residually felt this way, but I've never appreciated how Rose came at Charlie. like I agree with what she's saying. That like, hey, like don't I know you're wallowing in your shit, but like don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
But the way she is about it, I was like, okay, like that's kind of mean. Which obviously is how Charlie feels about it at first. He's like, excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, we do look at it because like as soon as he said excuse me, I'm like, oh, easy now, Charlie. You don't want to make her mad. That was nice, Rose. It is so funny. It's just the way you grow up.
Yeah, but obviously it was tough love. Well, and even before that last scene, like she kind of cuts through his negativity and is like, look, it wasn't your fault. And like that obviously like cuts to the root of like what he's feeling.
Yeah.
Because you put yourself in his shoes and like how much he cared for her and how much he said he was going to protect her.
Yeah.
And like when her false labor kind of goes away, he's like, "See, I told you I wouldn't let anything happen to you." And then to immediately after that have that happen,
get snatched. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I can only imagine the guilt that he's feeling about that, or the inadequacy that he's feeling. Anyways.
Anyways.
Rose is trying to get Charlie to help them move the stuff down the beach because Saeed, I think, is the one that says like it was Saeed or Jack, but they're commenting on how abnormal it is that this beach seems to be eroding all of a sudden, like really quickly. And then the fuselage is going to be underwater, so they've got to get off that beach. Not expecting you to necessarily have anything to say about it, but any thoughts on that weird phenomenon?
They're in a simulation. No. I got nothing. I just, I'm sitting there. Now again, he says it, and even before he said it, with the waves crashing and everything else, and this is honestly what I thought when I saw that. I'm like, is this like what's going on now, or is this right after the plane went down and literally a big chunk of the plane ended up in the water and it's causing these residual waves? That was the first thought that I came in mind when I saw those waves, and then I'm like, okay, that's not it, and then I just let it pass. But yeah, it is strange because I don't pretend to understand the ocean tides. But to see that pick up, you would expect a couple things. You would either expect that to be a wake of some large liner. You would expect to have some storm system out that's pushed these waves in, or the winds have picked up, and then it's not only affecting the water, it'd be affecting the whole island, the trees blowing things around. You didn't see any of that. So
well, I think
very layman terms or thought process there, but
yeah, I think seasonally, like the tides will shift, and actually the behind the scenes reason that they had to stop filming on that beach was because when they were shooting it, the tides were changing, but because when the show's set, like in the universe of the show, it's not that time of year, so it doesn't make sense for that to be happening. That's why it's kind of presented as like as this kind of mysterious thing that's happening. And that said, I think there's a really good explanation for it that's eventually revealed. But yeah, the other reason I'm saying that is because you were talking about like reasons that would make sense. And yeah, I think the seasons would, if it were the right time of year, that would make sense. So another somewhat subtle but significant development in this episode is that Sun has now learned Kate's secret, because Kate doesn't realize that Sun speaks English, and she starts saying things to Jack, and Sun's like, what?
When she started to talk to Jack before Kate came up, when she started to speak, I thought she was speaking, like pretending to speak broken English, but I thought she was actually at first speaking. I realized she wasn't real quick, but now I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, yeah, no, like only Michael knows. And so I love little charades with explaining the plants for headaches. I thought like, man, again, when you know the English language and you're doing that, it's like, yeah, kudos to you. And then yeah, when she started talking about that, and she clearly felt comfortable speaking in front of her because she's not English speaking according to Kate's knowledge, and I'm just sitting like, oh, yeah. And then that I allowed myself to think, but of course I stuck with what was going on in the show. But I allowed myself to think for a second, like, we haven't really seen any manipulative side to Sun, right? But I'm sitting there thinking, like, of all the people, for what we know of everybody on the island right now, of all the people that you could accidentally let know your secret, like, we haven't seen her weaponize much so far. Yeah, or anything. Yeah. So it allowed me to think to myself, like, I wonder how that will come back to haunt her later, because I have no recollection if it does, and if it does, and it's because Sun weaponizes it, I'll be super interested in that episode, or finding out what were the circumstances that caused that. So,
well, so circling back to the Kate and Jack thing, were you at all upset with Kate for trying to pull one over on Jack, like when she takes the key, or like?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is, I mean, it kind of goes back to like on a serious note on the relationship thing. It's like, cool, you've done all this manipulation, and that's kind of your way of being, and you want to keep people at bay, and but there's that sense, like, I feel like if I were Jack, I'd be like, I'm different. Like we're in this thing. This thing is different. Like, if you cannot find some reason to just be a little steady, like right here, where we have no idea whether we're going to get off this island. If they're gonna be there 20 years, people need to start pairing up, start having some workers. But when it's all said and done, it's offensive. It's offensive to me that she would sit there and play him, especially knowing that of all the people on that island, he would do it just because she asked him to do it. She doesn't have to manipulate him. He would just do it because he would want to do it for her. Yeah. And he's a servant anyway. He's a helper. He's a problem solver. He would do a lot for anybody on that island, but he would do anything for her. So she doesn't need to play her games.
And just doing my normal thing of like taking the opposite position for the hell of it. I feel like once you kind of understand why she was being, like, she didn't want to have to explain that or be vulnerable in that way. I think I'm a little less mad at Kate for trying to get in a scenario where she can open that case by herself. She wants to get in that case to get that toy plane because of what it means to her. The only way to get in the case is to find the key. Jack is the only person that knows where the key is because the marshal kept it on his person. So she explains to him that the guns are in the case. But as far as Jack's concerned, all they really need to do is get the case away from Sawyer. The fact that Kate is insistent on finding out where he buried the body, that's what clues Jack into. Like he knows Kate well enough at this point to know that she's not after the guns. Like she wants the key, which means she wants in the case, which means she wants something that's in the case. Jack knows her well enough to know that that's not the guns. And so he's wanting to know what that is, and I think that's perfectly justified, especially considering like all the things he doesn't know about her.
Yeah,
I can see both sides of it. Like I get why he's upset. I would be upset too. He's trying to trust her. She's not doing the same for him.
Yeah,
and they had an agreement, and she was kind of betraying it.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's kind of weird to me is they're on this island. They had the marshal's gun, all the drama that came around that. They know they didn't want, Sawyer to have a gun, but she's telling him there's these 4 9mm plus 4 boxes of ammo. Considering what they know now at this point, like it feels like, well, that's all you should have to tell him is that he should want that case. So Sawyer doesn't have it, but he should want it open. So they can arm themselves against, whatever forces are up against them, which they know now. There's at least one dude who, ate Jack's lunch and left him in a puddle and took the one pregnant person that Charlie cared about. So there's a piece of me that's like, well, wow, Miss, I don't like to reveal myself to people, could have had a bit of a poker face and just left it at that. And then let him find the personal effects. Like, the plane my dad got me for my second birth. I mean, play it off, make a necklace out of it. So you're gonna say, why do you have to unlock your emotions all of a sudden just because you were trying to hide? I don't know. It seems like for somebody who's a master manipulator, it seems like you gave up way too much emotion over something no one could have drawn a line to. I mean, whatever. I don't know.
Well, so I'm coming.
Come at me, bro.
No, I'm coming up with this argument as you're saying that. So it might be pretty flimsy, but my instinctive response to that is that would almost feel worse to Kate, like to flat out lie to Jack about something so personal versus just not wanting to share it with him. I think she has enough feeling for Jack that to lie about something that matters to her that much would feel like so much worse.
It'd be a bridge too far. Yeah.
Whereas just not sharing this piece of her that she's not ready to share, I think that's more of where she's coming from with how she does approach the situation.
It's less interesting than what I said, but I like it.
So I think that all that we have left is our fan mail section, or as I like to call it, communications with the outside world. There's one comment that Homo sapiens 97, I remember to say the right thing because it still shows up as 99. Homo sapiens 97 left a comment on our group discussion for Solitary, which is a few episodes back now. As we get further and further ahead of the release schedule, we're probably going to be responding to comments from longer ago. But what Homo sapiens is referring to in this comment is the fact that... Well, so I'll just read the comment. Didn't anyone pick up on the fact that when Danielle says she shot Robert, she heavily implies that the reason she did it was because he tried to shoot her first? Just to refresh your memory a little bit, what he's referring to as far as that implication is that Saeed gets that other rifle and he's telling her, don't raise your gun. And then she does, and he pulls the trigger, doesn't work. And she says, yeah, Robert didn't realize the firing pin was missing either before I shot him. And so the way Homo sapiens is reading that interaction between her and Saeed is that Robert must have tried to shoot her the way Saeed just did. And therefore, what does that say? Does that kind of back up what you were saying about the sickness being like a mental thing and like maybe she was defending herself? When you first saw that scene, like, what was your understanding of what she meant about Robert not realizing the fire? Like what did you imagine your head maybe transpired, if anything?
That's the thing. I probably did. I don't recall putting any thought into it other than the fact that because that whole thing, it's like it's not the exact same context, but it's that how many times you seen that playing out in a show or a movie where I have no real reason to trust you, but I trust you and I give you a firearm only to have you try to turn that firearm on me, in which I prove that I never trust you to begin with because A, it's empty, B, there's nothing in the chamber, C, the firing pin's removed. And so the thought that comes to mind when that scene happened, the only thing I most likely thought was what I think every time that happens, like, oh, they tricked him. Yeah, so I probably did not think much deeper than that, which is might be lame to some viewers on my part. But it's just no. I'm kind of used to that scenario in these situations in which, once again, probably just another situation where somebody shouldn't have had a gun to begin with. They want them to think they trusted them, but clearly they didn't because they made the weapon non-functioning, and it's revealed that they were right all along. They shouldn't have trusted them. That's probably all I thought about.
Gotcha. Which in that, like, if that is what you were thinking, then I mean that does imply that Danielle had reason not to trust, which would imply that he would have tried to attack her first, which is what he's saying. I guess what I want to say in response to it is that what I honestly remember, what I imagined when she first said that, and why I didn't think that that's what she meant. She says that she killed her whole team. So if Robert, let's assume, wasn't the first person in that group that she killed, and he's perceiving her as like overreacting and killing them unnecessarily, or even just, hey, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Like don't kill me just because I'm sick. It would make sense that he tried to defend himself with the gun, and then discovered that he was like, oh yeah, he didn't realize the firing pin was missing.
Yeah.
So I guess that's all I'm saying is that, like, that's how I initially read it, and I didn't. To me, it's still very ambiguous whether or not she was justified in killing anybody, and it wasn't necessarily her defending herself.
Right.
If she killed the whole team,
right,
then
those scenarios didn't play out one by one where they turned on her.
Yeah. Right. Probably not. I mean, it could have.
Could have. And he's possible and silent.
Yeah, I think that is actually the only thing that we have that's not spoilery. So the rest of the stuff that I have, I'm going to be addressing on my own. But yeah, if you guys want to write into the show and be featured on it, you can do that in written form or video form, like Ben recently did. Or audio message, which we've also had one from my dad, your brother. Basically, you can send an email in to dr.candlepun@gmail.com. And like I said, it can be any version of those types of message. And we will feature it on the show and we will respond to it. Feel free to write in about episodes that we've already talked about. If you want to respond to anything that we've already said in the past. Or if, episodes that are coming up later in the season, if you have thoughts on those episodes that you'd like for us to talk about and address, that would be really cool. So we will be back next week when we discuss episode 13, Hearts and Minds.
Hope to see you then.
I would now like to give a special thank you to the currently active donors. These include candidate number 90, Ben Ward, candidate number 108, Jeffrey Winslow, candidate number 69, Brian Phillips, candidate number 32, Chuck Boyd, and candidate number 341, Hans. If you too would like to become a candidate, you can do so for as little as $1. One-time or recurring donations can be set up on Ko-fi.com/Candlepun or Patreon.com/Candlepun. A donation of any amount will get you credited in this podcast and added to the candidate wall, which will be displayed in all video versions of the episodes of this podcast from that point forward, even once you're no longer donating. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the multiple people that have donated equipment and resources that are used in the production of this podcast. These include Mary Mullins, Brandon Huth, Charles Huth, William McMahon, and Charlene McMahon. Until next time, namaste and good luck. So yeah, please do feel free to send those in. I'm getting so tired of trying to find different ways to say all that. To like this video, click the thumbs up. Or, if there has been an incursion by the hostiles, click the thumbs down. To leave feedback, enter a comment below. To be notified when more videos arrive, click the circle and then select the notification bell. To view previous content from this channel, click either of the two boxes.